6th of February 25, and I'm just looking here. YouGov this week, Reform have topped the poll for the first time ever, really. I think last week they topped the first ever survey in Britain, and that was for a smaller, newer pollster. Find Out Now, I think it was they're called, and I think they were 3 points ahead or something, 27%, something like that. And now this week with YouGov, which is one of the big respected ones, uh, this is the first time they've headed a respected one. But they've been growing really fast over the last year. Um, Now it's a three-horse race, really. It's like 25% each at the moment. I think Reform will just pull away. And I think basically natives will basically vote Reform on this one issue, really. So Reform can put out their stall where we're real Tories or whatever. But really, I think everyone from the left should be voting Reform as a protest vote on this one issue, because to me it looks like it's not going to be utopia, as the London Mayor and Prime Minister are saying, you know. To me, I'm a bit worried it's not going to be like that. And if you feel the same way and you vote left, you need to vote Reform, basically. So here we've got something in that migrants who claim benefits will be banned from ever settling in Britain under Tory plans to tackle immigration. I mean, this should have been done 75 years ago. It should have been the rule from the get-go. It just shows how bad things are. Basically, people are strolling in from the global south or East Europe, you know. Kemi Badenoch will today take the flight. And the thing is that Kemi herself is an anchor baby. Her parents are Nigerian professors or something, and if they flew in 1980 when she was about a week to go or something with a pregnancy for to have Kemi delivered, so she'd be British. And so she was born, and then they flew straight back out afterwards. So and Kemi lived there until she was 16. She lived in Nigeria until she was 16. You can't tell that from her voice now. I don't know if she changed her accent when she got here or what, but one thing I'd say for that accents, if in a way it can show you that the person's making an effort, although in this case she's gone for the posh voice, you know, which I think is sort of to be upper class, or same as Diane Abbott, you know, but it's not really reassuring. If she had a Cockney accent or something, you know, maybe the Cockneys exist now, I don't know, I don't think so, but um, so they're saying yesterday she will take the fight to Reform. And when she was 16, I don't know if it's correct, but I think she wanted to go to America first, and for some reason she picked Britain, so that was really nice here, wasn't it? Maybe I get the feeling that there's only seems to be about 20 desirable countries in the world, and maybe 5 or 6 of the final destination desirables, with UK being one. Maybe these people see a sort of Disneylands, you know, but they're not coming for the weather, because they're leaving beautiful warm places, really, where everyone looks alike. So you've got to think that they're coming for whoever has created the good society there, you know. But personally, I don't think the left realise that native Brits are going to be a minority, and you're going to have to campaign for them like you do for the left. Are going to have to campaign like they do for Native Americans and Native Australians. Although that doesn't seem to be why people move to Australia or America, you know. But I know that I think alcohol has been banned in Alice Springs, you know. But anyway, came to Britain. So she came to Britain because we were nice. She's made it to be Tory thingy. It was a missed opportunity. I think only Jenrick could have saved the Tories, but the two of them have to go, the two old pals. Anyone who's been part of the last 75 years of government, since this began, really, needs to go. If they've ever shown signs of support, you know, because one way of looking at it is that maybe you think it's stupid. This seems a stupid idea to, you know, have the global south all in one small country with cold, wet weather. Maybe you should ask them why they're coming. Nobody seems to ask why they're coming. What is it they don't like about where they're coming from? Why did they consider Africa, Asia, Middle East, South America, Central America? You know, and coming here, what is it they actually think coming here for? Is it? It's not the weather, obviously. So yeah, so this is just ridiculous. She doesn't get any. I'm glad she's doing it, but she doesn't get any favours from me. You've still got to vote for them as a protest vote, even though they're rubbish on this issue. They're seen as a bogeyman. The left are telling you if you vote for them, they're selling natives. If you vote for them, you are the R word. So okay, we've got to vote for them on this issue, because you've got to show you've got to get away from the last 75 years, basically. What did he? I mean, one way of looking at it is when you think of this idea of the natives becoming a minority and becoming a global south and East Europe majority, it's a bit silly. Seems a bit silly idea, but the politicians don't seem to think that. But more than silly, do you think it's going to be very violent, bad for women's rights, LGBT rights? Labour and SNP and Lib Dem, I don't think so. They think it's going to be a utopia. The people are coming are either blank slates on these issues, or they're the same women's rights views as Yvette Cooper or J.K. Rowling at least, or or they're going to take on board Yvette Cooper, Nicola Sturgeon, Jess Phillips' views on women's rights. That's how they feel. If you don't think that and you're a bit worried, you need to vote reform anyway. So let's look at this now. She's for a dramatic tightening of the rules that allow migrants who arrive on work visas to settle permanently. And of course, we've got to remember they're the shadow. They're the opposition. They're not the ones in charge. And everything that Kemi said so far said she didn't want to clamp down on this. She wanted to clamp down on illegal immigration, but not legal. In fact, she's even campaigned to get more Nigerians over in the past, like in 2018 and that. She obviously feels that Britain needs more Nigerians, and it'll be really good. It'll be really good for us. The period before migrants can claim indefinite leave to remain will be doubled from 5 years to 10. I mean, really, they shouldn't have any. In Dubai and Singapore, I don't think they have any, right? They're always temporary citizens, temporary workers. And in Singapore, if you lose your job, you're out of the country in 6 months, which seems quite long to me from what I would have thought they would have done. But yeah, you've not got very. You need to find a job within 6 months. You don't get citizenship, as far as I know. I don't know, or it's very difficult. So she's saying it will be doubled from 5 years to 10, and people will have to show they are earning enough to support themselves. To me, that's not enough, really. I mean, you're changing the sort of mindset of the country, and looking at the countries they're coming from. To me, it looks as if they don't do very good on women's rights and LGBT, and it seems like one could wonder if it's the male ego out of control. Kalashnikov's getting fired in the air as a symbol. I don't know if these countries are known for rudeness, male ego out of control. I don't know. It's up to you. But all that seems to be bothered at the moment is the economy. That's all they seem to be bothered about, even though they don't really, because a lot of them are low skilled anyway, just wandering. About 95% of asylum seekers, I think, get asylum. So. As well, so that's the illegals. That's not even talking about. And we had a case today where an Indian couple came over, arranged marriage. The young man, somebody killed the lady, put her in a car boot. The young man's went back to India. He was over in a 1-year visa for a business management course. I mean, is such a thing? I didn't know they had 1-year visas for uni courses like that. But yeah, and they were living in Corby. So the good people of Corby, you've sadly not got that couple improving your population, and thinking to the economy. She was a housewife, as far as I know. Although her family are saying that he wouldn't let her spend her money. I mean, what money? I don't know. But under Mrs. Badenoch's first major policy announcement, as Tory leader, applicants will face stringent new conditions before the right to settle is granted, including demonstrating that they have never claimed benefits or used social housing. They must also show that their income is high enough to ensure they and their families will be net contributors to the economy rather than a burden. I'm not really interested in the economy, to be honest. I'm interested in the mindset of the country, what kind of country we become, whether this is a good idea. Keir Starmer called it a new experiment. Boris's waves over the last 5 years. So it's nice that the Prime Minister's letting us call it this sort of thing a new experiment. Done by design. In Boris's case, those with criminal convictions will ultimately be barred from applying. Those arriving in work visas who end up dropping out of work would have their visas cancelled and face deportation. Rules will also be brought in to prevent people who enter the UK illegally or who overstay their visas from ever being allowed to settle here permanently. Yeah, I did see a Nigerian man, I think it was in one of the YouTube videos. He was on an island because he came to London on a travel visa. He was about to claim asylum, but Rishi announced his sort of Rwanda thing that he wanted to put through the European Court of Human Rights. He wanted to put through those obstacles and the House of Lords. So the Nigerian man went over to Ireland, claimed asylum there. So I don't know how he's getting on, when you actually see the stories, which we don't, you're thinking, it's just really strolled in, really. They've just strolled in. Because every court case involving such people we should be told how the family came to be here, were they still viable for the reason that they came here, etc. Because say the Southport killers, I don't know, his family came over around about 2004. That was 10 years after or 2002. Why did they come here? Who approved why did this case get approved? I think one of his brothers has got a disability, so he'll be getting the NHS stuff and all that. And as I say, for Boris it was about GDP, but as Rupert Lowe said, and many say, including myself, it should be GDP per capita. That's all that's important, per person, not GDP. So let's see what this is saying again. Rules will also be brought in to prevent people who enter the UK illegally or who overstay their visas from ever being allowed to settle here permanently. So hopefully Labour take this on. This is why opposition parties don't give their policies, because usually the ruling party takes a lot of their things on before the next election. And new conditions for those seeking to gain British citizenship would also be imposed, including increasing the waiting period from 1 year to 5. I mean, 1 year to gain British citizenship. So that guy who's back in India, he came over here for a year's course. Maybe he would have just hung around for a few months to try and claim citizenship, I mean, his arranged marriage wife was here. She's been killed by somebody. The family think it's him, but he's on the run to India. He can't be found. I mean, cynics might think that reasons these beautiful warm countries are returned to is to be on the run, to be buried, or to become a top politician, basically. Mrs. Badenoch, who has acknowledged mistakes on immigration by the last Conservative government, last night said she was determined to get tough. Our country is not a dormitory, it's our home, she said. The right to citizenship and permanent residency should only go to those who have demonstrated a real commitment to the UK. I mean, how about for the citizenship test asking loads of LGBT and women's rights questions? I mean, Yvette Cooper, Nicola Sturgeon, Jess Phillips and Peter Tatchell, they can all form a panel. I'm quite happy for them to set the questions. We're going to tell the hard truths about immigration. So the pace of immigration, she's been too slack on this though. The pace of immigration has been too quick and the numbers coming too high for meaningful integration. We need to slow down the track for citizenship. For me, the concern, it's too late already. The natives are going to be a minority. We're going to be a global south majority, plus East Europe and Russia, etc. The second world, that's where we're going to be. So if you like the sound of that, keep voting left because they want it to happen faster, especially SNP and Plaid Cymru and Sinn Féin, etc. We need to slow down the track for citizenship. A UK passport should be a privilege, not an automatic right. She said policy changes being introduced by Labour would actually make it easier for illegal immigrants to stay in the UK, let alone legal migrants. No one can trust Labour on immigration. Tories also said Mrs Badenoch is also considering whether to commit the party to withdrawing from both the European Convention on Human Rights, yes, withdraw, and the UN Refugee Convention 1951, yes, which have been blamed for wrecking efforts to deal with illegal migration. Yes, yes. Should have been done decades ago. I mean, that 1951 convention was set up just after the war for people from neighbouring countries to be safe. It wasn't meant for Afghanistan, Somalia, Congo, Jamaica, Pakistan, Zimbabwe, which is what's happening now. She is also examining tougher English language requirements for those seeking to settle. See, I'm not so bothered about this yet, by all means. I mean, Riverlow says that there should be everything just be in English. I sort of agree with that. But I'm not really bothered whether they can speak English or not, because I would think more on women's rights and LGBT, because I'm guessing that will catch most of them out, although of course they'll lie. A lot of people will rely on it. But yeah, they should be able to speak English, yeah. That said, I don't think we're going to be an English-speaking language in a few decades. You know, same as like America, probably Spanish mostly. So the Tories have already, I mean, it's all baked in already. The Tories have already committed to introducing a binding annual cap on the number of work visas designed to reduce net migration to much lower than the current 350,000 a year forecast. I mean, David Cameron said he'd make that 50,000 a year net, and that's net, that's not gross, which is what you should look at, because gross is what you're changing the country with, basically. Mrs Badenoch's decision to make immigration the focus of her first big policy intervention underlines Tory determination to try to neutralise the threat posed by Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Anyone who decides to keep voting Tory rather than Reform is a fool, in my opinion. No matter, you want Tories to get more and more strict on it, but you've got to abandon the Labour Conservatives of the last 75 years, because it's something that's caused it. And they still, even up to now, this poll, they were still really seeing how they could make it work, you know. So, since becoming leader in November, Mrs Barrett has repeatedly said that the last government got it wrong by line, record numbers to enter the country, the most ever. Both Labour and Tories have been alarmed at the rise of reform in the polls. That's all they're bothered about, fueled by a focus on immigration. One Red Wall Labour MP told the Mail, there's still a discrimination in some squatters by acting the same tougher immigration. We have to stamp that out because our voters are very clear. They're sick of being told this is all under control when it clearly isn't. If we don't fix it, then they will look to someone else to do their job. I mean, this is why we voted Brexit 9 years ago. And instead of getting Brexit, Boris made it worse. Instead of getting people coming from the EU, that would maybe include native Westerners, but also people from the colonies of there, you know, like Guinea-Bissau. I think the guy who murdered people in Nottingham, his family were from Guinea-Bissau or something. They went to Portugal because that was EU colony, that was their colony. They stayed there for about 5 years to get EU citizenship, and then they moved to Britain. So that was the old way of doing it, to come from the third world to Britain. But Boris made it, you can just come straight over. He's been the worst ever, and Rishi kept that going. So, yeah, and here's looking at it from Labour's point of view. Labour meltdown over reform threat. Panicking MPs demand tougher action on immigration to counter poll surge, but left-wingers dismiss calls as fascism like. So here we're really going to have these two, you know, totally confused. Labour and fighting has erupted over immigration's panicking MPs demand action to counter the reform surge. You've got to vote reform, especially if you vote left. In council by-elections, any chance you get. Join yougov, etc. Anxiety is deepening over the threat from Nigel Farage's outfit, and with polls suggesting the parties are now neck and neck. This is all they bother about, basically. I mean, you can moan to your MP as much as you like, but this is all they bother about. Some of the nearly 90 Labour MPs where reform came second in the election are pressuring Keir Starmer to respond. They are said to be focused on measures to bring down legal and illegal immigration, including deporting more people. Yes. I mean, in 5-10 years' time, I think native female voters of the Greens, SNP, Labour, they all want a reversal basically, because they're going to be hysterical. They're going to, I mean, the London Mayor and Labour are saying it's going to be a utopia, but some might worry that it's going to be anarchy, I don't know. However, the calls have drawn anger from left-wingers, with warnings that Labour joining a race to the bottom and offering fascism light will only boost Mr Farage. Labour has been struggling to find an effective strategy against reform, with Health Secretary Wes Streeting recently directly attacking Mr Farage. Senior figures believe that the Brexit champions' previous stance in watering down the NHS could be a weak point. Watering down the NHS, I don't know what they're talking about. Diane Abbott was among the Labour MPs condemning the idea of taking a harder line to combat reform. Well, of course, colleagues seem to think turning the Labour Party into reform light will save their parliamentary seat. Completely delusional. Well, she's right, because you've got to vote them out either way, no matter what they do. Labour MPs calling for, this is Clive Lewis, calling for tougher immigration policies to counter reform UK are missing the point. Without a fundamental shift in who the economy and society work for, this approach won't stem the tide. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, to me, these people want to destroy the country. They know it's going to be anarchy and they're not bothered. I mean, why did their families come here? What was it that they found desirable? It's not the weather. It's where they come from are beautiful warm countries where everyone looks alike. So I don't think they're being honest. And I think in a way it's sort of, they like seeing the natives lose their country, basically, really. Because that's what's happened. It's already happened. I think this is why reform are doing so well, because it's happening in every town and city and village now. But we're going to just become total anarchy, I think, Or you can think we're going to become a utopia, as the politicians are telling us. However, nerves were heightened by a yougov poll putting reform top and 25% up 2 points in a week. And that includes Scotland, because they're up at 17% now in Scotland, and Wales are up even higher, I think. Labour was down 3 points on 24%. I think the problem as well for Labour and that, etc., is that people are taking an interest in politics and are getting the information from, getting their views and that from the internet, rather than the old days where it was top down. It was politicians to mainstream interviewers, news interviewers. That was all you had. It just came down to you. You had your own thoughts, but nobody cared. But now everybody's an equal, And I mean, Reform had a conference yesterday, a press conference, and I watched it on YouTube, That was about Labour have cancelled the law of elections and council elections this May. And they're saying because they're restructuring, but Reform says because they're scared that Reform will win it. Labour was down 3 points on 24%, while the Tories won 21% down a point. One MP involved in the informal pressure group told The Guardian, "There's a major focus now on how to beat reform. Various groups have been set up and we have been talking to Downing Street about what works. One of the main messages to the leadership is we need to do more on illegal migration especially." So they're wrong really, because it needs to be illegal as well. Another MP suggests it's key needed to shout louder about policies on legal and illegal immigration. But former frontbencher Clive Lewis warned that such a shift would not stem the tide. Blah, 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 blah. Mr Lewis said the real battle is over who offers meaningful change, and right now too many feel that that answer isn't Labour. I mean, nothing else matters in my opinion, just this one issue. Nothing to do with the economy, because I think it's going to be anarchy anyway. It's to do with the stability of the country, basically. I think women are going to be a bit worried about it. So, John McDonnell's retweeting his post. Responsible practical controls on migration and a humane asylum policy. No asylum in my opinion, from countries that have poor track records on women's rights and LGB, in my opinion. I would really don't think we should have any at all, except for neighbouring countries, and even then for people who are traditional of those countries, I just don't look at the rickshaws of the European legacy social democrat parties across Europe that tried fascism. I don't think they did actually. It's just people abandoned them. It doesn't work and never will. Why have Diet Coke when you can have the real thing? No, I don't agree with them at all. So that's all I've got to say about that just now. If you're worried about it, vote reform as a protest vote. It doesn't matter. Don't bother about all the other politics. Just a protest vote, because they're seen as the bogeymen on this. Even though their policy on it's rubbish. I mean, it's net zero, and I'm not talking about climate change. That's not good enough. I think in 5 years' time, female Green voters will want a reversal, I think. And also, do YouGov polls, vote reform in any council by-election or any council election, any election that's possible. Do YouGov polls, choose reform. When I ask you what 3 policies you're worried about, only pick IMM, that one. You've just got to hammer the message home. Yeah, you could do government petitions, and if you think any businesses are helping destroy the country, then maybe you don't need to use them businesses. So that's the sort of thing. All you can do at the moment. Reform's just an Overton window shift bar. They're not good enough on this. Rupert Lowe's the best on it, but he's I see just as a single issue on it. I mean, 5 or 10 years time, I think native female Green voters are going to be the ones to show us the way on this. Yeah. So let's see how the German election goes in a few weeks. AFD aren't doing as well as I expected, because the Germans are so nice, the native Germans, They're at about 22% of them on, most of that from East Germany, but they're just too nice. So this is how this has happened in the first place to the West. So, I mean, any country can be successful. Nothing is stopping any country in the world being successful. The only thing we should be moving for is beautiful warm weather, because the country's economy should be flourishing. So if they're not, then you have to wonder why. So, okay, that's it.